one.
Hi, I'm Hannah Young.
Bonjour! Aujourd'hui, nous faisons l'échelle de crème.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Isabella.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Jenna.
Why are you guys speaking in French?
Because today we're making cream puffs, and do you know where cream puffs originated?
France?
Yeah! And Izzy and I speak French.
And I'm French!
Yay! So now we start by preheating the oven to 425
degrees Fahrenheit.
In a saucepan, we have added 1 1/2 teaspoons of sugar, 1 cup of water, 1 stick of butter, and half a teaspoon of salt.
As you can see, the butter is melting. It's changing from a solid to a liquid. The heat causes the molecules to break apart and melt. This is an example of a phase change. It separates the butter into the clarified butter and the fat. Yay!
The mixture with a wooden spoon. Once the mixture starts to boil, immediately take the pan off the heat. Then add in the flour. Once the flour is stirred in, put the pan back on the heat and stir until smooth. Fun facts! Legend has it that cream puffs were invented by Catherine de Medici's cook. Catherine de Medici was the Queen of France. Bowl, add 3 eggs.
Now fill the piping bag with the dough.
After you have filled the bag with the dough, you need to pipe the dough onto a baking sheet in 2-inch rounds.
Is piping the dough.
What does sous chef mean?
It means assistant chef in French. You can mix up the egg wash with 1 egg and water. Brush the egg wash onto the dough.
Cream puffs in the oven for 20 minutes.
Happens frequently in baking. There are 3 different types of heat transfer: convection, radiation, and conduction. Radiation is when heat is transferred through empty space. This means that radiation does not need a medium between the heat source and the food to heat up the food. Conduction is when heat is transferred between the particles in a solid. This means that the heat is transferred from one object to another when they touch. Lastly, convection is the transfer of heat through the movement of either gas or liquid molecules. Hot air rises and cold air sinks, and that is what causes the molecules to move and transfer heat to the food. Our cream puff shells are baking in a convection oven. This means that the hot air in the oven is heated by the coils and circulates through the oven by a fan to bake the cream puff shells. This causes the circulation and allows for the hot air to bake the cream puff shells. In our case, convection is the primary heat transfer, but conduction is also used. Not only do the cream puff shells get hot, but so does the baking sheet. When the baking sheet gets hot, it transfers its heat energy to the cream puff shells by conduction, and this allows for the bottom of the cream puff shells to also bake.
To make the cream filling, mix 2 cups of heavy cream and 2 tablespoons of sugar with a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla and beat until fluffy. After the cream is nice and fluffy, put the cream into a piping bag. Our cream puffs are done.
Leavening is a substance that adds gas bubbles to a dough to help make it rise and lighten up so it's all puffy and airy inside. So there are 2 general types of leavening, and those are chemical leavening and biological leavening. The main biological leavener is yeast, and as a living fungus, when it respirates, it makes gas and makes bubbles inside of the dough or batter. The chemical leaveners that are most common are baking powder and baking soda, both of which react with acids to make carbon dioxide, which also puffs up inside the dough. Although, in this case, we are using steam as our leavener, and because this recipe has so many liquids in it, when they boil inside the oven, they turn into steam and puff up inside, and the eggs and gluten form a network, and the steam can't escape, so it puffs up inside.
The cream puffs are nice and cool, you fill the cream puffs by placing the pastry on the tip of your finger and poking a hole into the bottom of each puff. Then pipe the cream into the cream puff. You will need to pour the dough into a pastry bag. And that was not it. Okay.
That was really sad.
That's okay.
We still have enough dough.
Yep, we can just. Should I stop recording? And here's the janitor. Good doge. Good doge.
Wait, how much water is it?
I don't know. I just put some in.
With water. Okay, bye. Brush the egg wash onto the bread thing. I'm ready.